Hello everyone, GoldenNova here. Doom of Dimension is upon us, which means we have a plethora of new cards to talk about. This time, we're dipping into a little Vrains action with a third look at the Gore's roster. We've gravitated towards G-Golem and dominated with Dino Wrestlers, but we've yet to touch on easily the most powerful and influential theme this entertainment duelist brought to bear. Premiering in the August 2017 core set, Code of the Duelist, Gouki was one of the themes that helped to usher in the Link era, not only providing excellent material for those Link summons and giving you some pretty sweet boss monsters, they also punished creatures that had one thing that Links lacked: defense points. Viewing these as a manifestation of the monster's fear of their own demise, these masked wrestlers preyed on that fear, bringing anything from the main deck to its knees. And maybe a few from the extra deck too. But if the theme is so powerful, how did it ever lose its standing? And do the new cards in this set solve its flagging popularity? Well, it's time to find out. So get ready to cut a sick promo, cause it's time for Gouki Explained. Real quick before we get started, one of the many themes to cover out of Doom of Dimensions is DDs, and I need your help to cover it. Ever since I started working on this channel full-time, my Patreon has had a goal where if I get 200 patrons, I would cover the theme, and now seems like as good a time as any to accomplish that goal. If you have $1 to spare each month, please consider supporting me over on Patreon or right here as a YouTube member. I'll be counting both, because it really does make a huge difference here. Not only do higher tiers get you early access to videos and to parts of my Discord, it also means I'd have more money to hire editors, which would mean I'd have more time to do other outrageous things. It's no exaggeration that if just 1% of my audience gave a single dollar, I'd never have to worry about a video underperforming ever again, and I could invest in a lot more lore content. Turns out that stuff is pretty risky. Thank you all for your time, and now, let's get to the explaining. So, what's the deal with Gouki? Well, they're a series of Earth attribute warrior type monsters, and like we said earlier, there's an underlying theme of punishing monsters that have defense points. This isn't universally applicable. Many non-links natively have 0 defense, but in general, you'll get some value out of them. However, this does mean their monsters do have 0 defense themselves to complement the theming, which does mean they have a bit of a weakness to position changing effects. But that's not the real draw here. The big bonus is that many of them make for strong link material. Not because they provide some kind of applicable effect to the monster they make, but rather, many of them add a different Gouki card from your deck to your hand when sent from the field to the graveyard, contextualized as one wrestler leaving the ring and tagging out for another. Though I can't really call it tagging out because I've leaned so hard into using that for gladiator beasts that it's kind of their iconic switcheroo name. So I'm at a bit of a loss for what shorthand to use to describe the effect. And because they can get any on-theme card, we can choose from monsters that can extend our summon chains, or grab our support spells that help to extend our summon chains. Look, it's a strong deck, but it's not a creative one. It does one thing, and it does it well. It's also worth noting that you don't necessarily have to link summon with them to get that search, meaning that Gouki's combo with a variety of summon effects, tribute them for some monarchs, or even use them as fusion material as long as you put them on the field first. Synchroing is also on the table, though because of how Xyz monsters work, detaching them as material isn't going to quite give you the same effect. Let's start things off with Gouki Guts, a level 1 monster with 800 attack, and this defense position monster can't be destroyed by battle. During your main phase, you can make all Gouki monsters you control gain 200 attack, and if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can add a Gouki card from your deck to your hand except a copy of this card. So while Guts has no defense, that doesn't mean it's not an expert at holding the line. A piercing battle damage is its second worst matchup, with first place being taken by double piercing battle damage, but in the absence of that, it holds the line quite well. The 200 attack bonus is kind of fun, but not gonna lie, it doesn't really scale up fast enough to be as devastating as other board-wide buffs, even if it does affect all of your present Gouki. But it floats like the best of them, so it's worth keeping in mind. And really, I can't say no to a fellow Nickelodeon kid. Gouki Octostretch is a level 1 monster with 0 attack, and if your opponent's monster attacks during damage calculation as a quick effect, you can discard this card and the damage you take that battle is halved. And when your opponent activates an effect that would inflict damage to you even during the damage step as a quick effect, you can discard this card and the damage you take from that effect is halved. And if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can add a Gouki card from your deck to your hand except a copy of this card. Octostretch was actually a pretty popular choice in Link decks looking to splash in the Gouki engine to keep their resources stocked up. Its low level made it easy to call to the field with Isolde, Two Tales of the Noble Knights, a very powerful Link monster while it was legal, and if you hard drew it, it still had some utility, even if pitching it from the hand didn't get you the search. If anything, if you just splashed Goukis, Octostretch was a great card to search out because it gave you some level of survivability against a big push of damage. In a pure theme, it's still not terrible. Having damage isn't exactly a game-breaking effect, but can help keep you in the game when you otherwise would have been splattered. And being in the grave just means you can use your variety of reborn effects to get it back into rotation to turn into bigger, better, badder monsters. You may think I'm reaching a bit to justify a card that boils down to an archetypal Karibo, but worse. However, I would argue it's more of a stretch. Gouki Ring Trainer is a level 1 monster with 0 attack, and if you control no monsters, you can reveal this card in your hand, then target a Gouki Link monster in your grave and special summon this card from your hand. Then, special summon the target, but it loses 500 attack. And while you control a Gouki Link monster, this card can't be destroyed by battle. Sadly, we lack a floating effect on this one, but that doesn't mean it won't make for good Link material. Losing 500 off of the summoned Link kind of blows, since the battle prowess of our monsters is their key selling point. So instead, why not just link what we summoned and Ring Trainer together to make an even bigger Link? Or you can keep them both around. Trainer is immune to battle destruction while you have their student around, and while the debuff sucks, we do get to keep all of the Link monsters' effects. So I wouldn't count this Ring Trainer out. Gouki Headbat is a level 1 monster with 800 attack, and if this card is in your hand, you can send one other Gouki monster from your hand to the graveyard, then target a Gouki monster that you control. Special summon this card in defense position, and if you do, the targeted monster gains 800 attack until the end of the turn. And if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can add a Gouki card from your deck to your hand, except a copy of this card. This one is a pretty pricey effect. Not monetarily, just in terms of card economy. Asking for an additional discard, but it does skip your normal summon, so if you need another piece of material on board, or heaven forbid the 800 attack bonus, this is a good member of the team to have. Besides, playing this means you have Batman on the team. Who doesn't want to have Batman on their team? Gouki Iron Claw is a level 2 monster with 1000 attack, and during the damage step, when your Gouki monster battles an opponent's monster as a quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the grave, and until the end of this turn, your monster gains 500 attack, and if it does, it's unaffected by your opponent's card effects. And if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can add a Gouki card from your deck to your hand except a copy of this card. Another hand trap friend, Iron Claw eschews the defensive options and goes right to boosting your attack. It even makes your monsters a towers for the turn, making it completely immune to your opponent's effects. Though, because you can only do this during the damage step, any interaction they do before battle can't be stopped, so it's actually kind of lackluster. By the time the battle phase is over, the turn is basically done. So despite being another monster that floats, it's hard to give this a strong recommendation, even if it is a great source of iron. Gouki Twist Cobra is a level 3 monster with 1600 attack, and as a quick effect, you contribute a Gouki monster, then target a Gouki monster that you control, and it gains attack equal to the original attack the attributed monster had until the end of the turn. And if it's sent to the graveyard, you can add a Gouki card from your deck to your hand, except a copy of this one. This is a deceptively tricky card, and I love it. The first level of functionality is that you can use it to buff a Gouki big enough to run over another monster, sure. But the next layer is figuring out that you can attack with the monster you intend to tribute, then when you attack with your next monster, tribute that first monster to essentially double the amount of attack it contributed to your offensive push. But then it goes even further, because then you realize that you have a quick effect that alters attack values, but also changes the number of monsters on your field. This means you can use it during the damage step, so if one of your Goukis are about to get flattened into paste and you're about to take a huge chunk of life point damage, you can wait until the damage step, then tribute that Gouki that's in the middle of combat to give its attack to a different one. Not only will that Gouki be better prepared to take on an onslaught from a different monster, that battle will be rendered null and void while consuming that opponent's monster's attack, meaning you get to keep all those delicious life points. This easily makes it the slipperiest member of the team, and I can't get enough of it. Combat tricks are so often overlooked because they don't affect the board state most of the time, so they really need some kind of extra gimmick to make them worthwhile, and this one fits the bill most excellently. Though I guess I would argue that it's less of a gimmick and more of a twist. Gouki Suprex is a level 4 monster with 1800 attack, and when this card is normal summoned, you can special summon a Gouki monster from your hand. And if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can add a Gouki card from your deck to your hand, except a copy of this one. This is your primary starter. It's like a marauding captain for the theme, summoning out another member of the team to help get your Link plays started. And while that's a pretty tame effect, remember that these Goukis are floating into more material, so whatever links that you make off these two incidentally is going to net you 2 more cards, which is double fantastic because you can use those searches to chain block the activation of any Link monster they were used to make. This wrestler ain't just good, they're super Rex. Gouki Mashin Suprex is a level 4 tuner monster with 1800 attack, and you can reveal this card and a Gouki monster in your hand to special summon both, but you can't special summon monsters, except Gouki ones, while you control either of those face-up monsters. And if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can add a Gouki card from your deck to your hand, except a copy of this card. We're looking at some of the latest support here, and it's cool to see they put Suprex into the next stage of their evolution. It does essentially what base Suprex does, but without burning your normal summon. The restriction isn't even that bad, you just gotta get them off the field and you're unlocked. The two Suprexes even kind of play into each other. If you normal summon regular Suprex and then get another Gouki, link those two off and get 2 searches. If one of those searches is Mashin Suprex, you can summon it and the other Gouki monster you just searched to get even more material onto the board, and vice versa. But that doesn't answer why the Link exclusive theme is rocking a tuner monster. Well, at the risk of spoiling stuff, in this latest wave of support, the team has decided to diversify its roster. Expect to see a Synchro and a Fusion monster before too long, possibly a reference to Gore's Dino Wrestlers, who also dipped into both of those summon methods. Trust me, it won't be the only time that they do this. It's also worth noting that the summon restriction only applies if you use the special summon from hand effect, otherwise it's like any other tuner, so keep your eyes peeled for any other synergistic synchro monsters. This is a tremendous addition to the theme, with my only complaint being that they missed a chance to make Mashin Suprex a machine type monster. That would have been pretty keen. Gouki Scorpio is a level 5 monster with 2300 attack, and if you control no monsters, or all monsters you control are Goukis, you can normal summon this card without tributing. And if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can add a Gouki card from your deck to your hand, except a copy of this card. Yeah, so it's just a big body and a big level. Not a lot to really talk about here. It's cool that it can cheat the tribute cost, and you can bring it out alongside Suprex with either of their effects, and it works extremely well with Twist Cobra to shuffle around a massive amount of attack points, but it really only does anything in conjunction with other cards, and even then it's not anything special. Honestly, if I were you, unless I had a really good reason for it, I wouldn't risk Scorpio running this one. Gouki Tag Partner is a level 5 monster with 1700 attack, and if this card is sent to the graveyard as link material for the link summon of a Gouki monster, you can have that Gouki link monster gain 1000 attack until the end of the turn. And during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the grave, you can banish this card from your grave, then target a Gouki spell card in your grave and shuffle it into the deck. So this is like Scorpio, but in another direction. It trades out the search for a hefty temporary boost to your Link monster, and giving you a chance to get your Gouki spells back into rotation. Sad we don't get it immediately, but with all the searching we do, we'll see it in no time. The issue here is, unlike Scorpio, Tag Partner doesn't have a cool effect to deploy it onto the field to get around the fact that it's higher than level 4. So you'll have to use the Suprexes to bring this out efficiently. Its utility is still questionable if I'm being honest, but at least now you're getting 2 modes of support on one body, making the price tag partner a bit more appealing. Gouki Bear Hug is a level 6 monster with 2400 attack, and if this card is special summoned by the effect of a Gouki card or is normal summoned, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and its attack becomes half its original attack until the end of the turn. And if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can add a Gouki card from your deck to your hand, except a copy of this card. Now, I wouldn't want to be playing multiples of these, but I feel like it's got a spot as a solid one of in every Gouki deck, if only for the fact that if you need to win a battle, Bear Hug is going to make it happen. For a monster to go toe-to-toe with the bear after the effect, they would have to have been at 4800 or more before the effect applied. And while that's not impossible, it's not an everyday occurrence. And heck, it doesn't even have to be Bear Hug that finishes them off. This card floats as well, so if you have access to a Link monster that's even bigger, well, that's more targets that you can thrash. Turns out, you really can kill your opponent with kindness. And what's kinder than a big ol' hug? Gouki Moonsault is a level 6 monster with 1900 attack, and you can reveal this card in your hand, then target a Gouki monster that you control, except a copy of this card, and special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, return that monster to the hand. You can also target a Gouki Link monster in your grave to return it to the extra deck, then you can add a Gouki monster from your grave to your hand. We've got another Gouki that doesn't float, but instead helps get us value in a different way. Summoning it is painfully easy, replacing itself with any of your on-field Goukis, and because they go back to the hand, we get another go at using the effects of the Suprexes if we so desire. And on top of that, it's also keeping our extra deck and hand stocked up at the same time. Link climbing isn't something we'll be shying away from, so there will likely be at least a couple sitting in the yard for us to reclaim, all while putting other Goukis into our hand to extend our plays even further. Heck, while the first effect keeps us from targeting Moonsault, this second effect doesn't keep us from recycling another copy of Moonsault from the graveyard. So we've got ourselves a pretty slick resource loop going on if we can maintain it. A rabbit-themed wrestler may not seem like the most imposing enemy in the roster, but I've seen what Mirko can do in action, so you do not disrespect the bunny. Alright, that covers our main deck. Now it's time for the extra deck. We've got a slew of Link monsters to churn through, but first, to keep with our usual order of things, we've got some other extra deck monster types to cover that came out in this most recent set. First up is Gouki the Tyrant Ogre, a level 8 fusion monster with 3500 attack, requiring a Gouki Link monster and either a warrior, dinosaur, or Cybers monster as material. If this card is fusion summoned, you can target cards on the field up to the total Link rating of the Gouki Link monsters used as material and destroy them. And if you used a Link 3 or higher monster as material, neither player can activate cards or their effects in response to this effect's activation. And if this card battles, your opponent can't activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. An effect that references the Dino Wrestlers, whose big bosses usually had that ancient gear effect stapled onto them. But here, it's even better because we've got the whole Armades. And that's not the only reference. Aside from the obvious fossil armor the Gouki is donning, the fusion materials encompass all of the Gore's signature decks. Goukis represent warriors, Dino Wrestlers for dinosaurs, and G-Golem for cybers. While this doesn't necessarily make this a powerful super polymerization target, it's not an unusable one. Warriors are pretty common, and with Malice running around, there's no end to Cybers material that you can steal. And good grief is that on-summon effect brutal. Removing 3 cards and making it so your opponent has nothing to say about it can throw a massive wrench in their plans. All on top of a staggering 3,500 point body! This is a keeper for sure, especially with even more support we'll be seeing later on. But, like, did you have to kill the Dino Wrestlers to make this card? It seems a tad overkill. Gouki Dragon Ogre is a level 6 synchro monster with 2200 attack, requiring generic material. If this card is synchro summoned, you can grab a Gouki spell card from your deck to your hand, and if this card is sent to the grave, you can target an earth monster you control to add a Gouki monster with a lower attack from your grave to your hand. Also, while the targeted monster is face up on the field, your opponent's monsters can only target that monster for attacks. Woo! Talk about your extenders, this card rules! Though, admittedly, it is a bit clunky. With Moshin Rex being our only on-theme tuner, you'll need to run a healthy supply of Headbat, or heaven forbid Iron Claw, to make this work. Otherwise, we're going to need the help of other tuners, as thankfully this is a generic one to make. Now, you shouldn't expect this to stick around for very long, as its purpose is to jump in, get you a spell, then jump out to help make a boss monster that will gain some attack redirection, but that doesn't make this a mid-card mook. This is an all-star, no two ways about it. However, the branding is a little confusing here. I mean, ogre, dragon, can we pick one mythological creature to focus your entire image on, please? Alright, now we can move on to our Link monsters. Gouki Heal Ogre is a Link 2 monster with 1000 attack, requiring 2 Gouki monsters as material. Once per turn, when a monster this card points to activates its effect as a quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. Then you can special summon a Gouki monster from your grave, except a copy of this card. So we have a rudimentary form of interruption, so long as our opponent plays into the correct column. If we slap this into the correct zone, we can inadvertently shut off a monster our opponent had expected would be safe. Though, we can still use it to our own devices if things don't line up that way. While negating and destroying our own cards doesn't sound too appealing, the revival doesn't have any limitations, so you have a chance to trade out one of your regular Goukis for a boss monster. And odds are that Gouki you just blew up is about to net you a search. So it may look like a heal, but I'm starting to see some babyface action going on in there. Gouki Jet Ogre is a Link 2 monster with 2000 attack, requiring 2 Gouki monsters as material. Once per turn, you can target a Gouki card you control and destroy it, and if you do, change all monsters on the field to face-up attack position. And if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can make all Gouki monsters you currently control gain 500 attack until the end of the turn. That's a pretty nifty effect, so we force the monster to attack position to get damage through, and it has a way to amp up our team. And notably, if you blow up Jet Ogre with its own effect, you're basically getting both. You might not want to do that because Jet has a base 2000 attack. That would be a sad waste of a monster. Not to mention it represents 2 materials for Link summons, but if you need to keep the rest of your cards, it's nice to have the option. And if anything, it might help keep you in compliance. I'm not sure if the Jetpack and the Rapier is going to be allowed in the ring. Maybe one, but certainly not both. Right? Gouki Chic Ogre is a Link 2 monster with 1900 attack, requiring 2 Gouki monsters as material. If any number of Gouki monsters are added from the deck to the hand except by drawing them, and except during the damage step, you can special summon any number of Gouki monsters from your hand with different levels from each other, but you can't special summon except Gouki monsters, while you control any of those face-up monsters. And during your main phase, you can fusion summon a Gouki fusion monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand or field as material. And both effects are ones you'll be making immediate use of, since you have some searches from the Goukis that you just sent to the graveyard to use as Link material for Chic. And with the monster searches, you'll have more than enough material to fuse for Tyrant Ogre, but if you can help it, don't be too hasty. Remember, Tyrant's effect gets better if you can make it with a Link 3. So try to use the monsters you summon off of Chic's first effect to hit that threshold. An important thing to note is that while its summon from hand effect triggers when you search a Gouki from your deck to your hand, it doesn't summon the monsters that you search. Rather, you're allowed to summon any number of Goukis from your hand, so long as they have different levels. And big bonus, Tyrant's Destruction effect checks for the total Link rating of all Gouki Link monsters used in its summon. So combining the Link 3 and Chic gives you 5 pieces of removal that can't be responded to. If that doesn't make your opponent humble, I don't know what will. Gouki the Blade Ogre is a Link 3 monster with 2400 attack, requiring 2 or more Gouki monsters as material. It gains 300 attack for each monster it points to, and once per turn, you contribute a monster this card points to on either field, which enables this card to make a second attack during each battle phase this turn. A big double attacker is pretty stellar, and it also has a hidden special ability. It's a kaiju. Kind of. When tributing for cost, you can normally only do so with your own cards, unless otherwise stated. And this card states either side of the field. So like with Heal Ogre, if your opponent puts their monster in the wrong column, you can scoop them up for more damage, especially because the attacks are unrestricted, so they don't have to be made on monsters. Heck, if you want to double dip, run some kaijus of your own. Even if your opponent doesn't summon monsters to the zone that Blade Ogre points to, you can just tribute their monster away for that kaiju and then put it in that zone. Which, I mean, makes sense. Double attacking, getting double value out of your kaiju. It truly is in keeping with the spirit of the double-ended sword. Darth Maul would be proud. Gouki the Great Ogre is a Link 3 monster with 2600 attack, requiring 2 or more Gouki monsters as material. All monsters on the field lose attack equal to their defense, and if this card would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can destroy one of your monsters this card points to. This is the big card that punishes defense havers, and as the game has moved away from Links being the primary extra deck monster type, it's actually gotten a lot stronger. How much defense non-Link monsters have is something that can't be helped, but in general, monsters worth dealing with usually have a solid enough defense to be a detriment to their attack. And hey, it's got that protection effect, that's pretty hella. This seems like one of the strongest options to have on your end board, even now. So the title is, pretty apt. Gouki the Solid Ogre is a Link 3 monster with 2400 attack, requiring 2 or more Gouki monsters as material. It can't be destroyed by battle or card effects while it points to a Gouki monster, and once per turn as a quick effect, you can target a Gouki monster in your main monster zone, accept a copy of this card, and move that monster you control to your main monster zone this card points to. So essentially, it can pull your Goukis into range to activate its passive effect, and might have some other synergies, but other than that, this is a pretty underwhelming monster. Reading this made me think it was like a random pack filler Link monster. It doesn't really have anything to do with the rest of the theme, so it doesn't seem solid at all to me. Gouki Thunder Ogre is a Link 3 monster with 2200 attack, requiring 2 or more Gouki monsters as material. If any number of monsters this card points to are destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can make this card gain 400 attack. Also, the turn player applies the following effect while this monster is on the field. During the main phase, the turn player can normal summon a monster from their hand to their zone this card points to in addition to their normal summoner set. So, it's a Gemknight Seraphonite for communists. We all get normal summons according to our needs. That is, if you plan to keep it around. The additional normal summon is really helpful for lining up a big Link 4 summon, so we can largely think of this as just our extra normal summon on the way to a bigger monster. But if you do want to keep it around, it can certainly get pretty big. That being said, I think the former technique is far better, showing up with a bang before fading away. Gouki Destroy Ogre is a Link 4 monster with 2800 attack, requiring 2 or more Gouki monsters as material. The first time each monster this card points to would be destroyed by a battle each turn, it is not destroyed, and during your main phase you can activate this effect. You can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Gouki monsters. Also, your opponent special summons 1 or 2 monsters from their grave. Then you special summon up to that many non-Link Gouki monsters from your grave to any number of zones this card points to. So, your opponent gets some monsters of their own, then you get some of yours. This can certainly be helpful for building up your own material base, but letting your opponent have any of their monsters? That's pretty dangerous. And I don't really feel like we have any targets that are worth summoning back. Or at least, there didn't used to be. But now we're adding boss monsters that aren't Links. Despite not being fusion summoned, Tyrant Ogre is still a force to be reckoned with in battle, and Dragon Ogre still gets you a search when sent to the graveyard. Now it's still a rough sell, but it's got a lot more negotiating power than it used to. What gets me though is that it's doing some big false advertising here. It doesn't have any effect that triggers when it destroys anything. In fact, it's got a protection effect that prevents destruction. Who the heck decided on this Gouki's gimmick because they are not paying attention? Gouki the Giant Ogre is a Link 4 monster with 3000 attack, requiring 3 or more Gouki monsters as material. It can't be destroyed by battle, and is unaffected by the activated effects of your opponent's monsters with attack less than or equal to this card's. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets this card and/or any number of monsters this card points to as a quick effect, you can make this card lose exactly 500 attack, and if you do, negate the activation. And once per turn, if this card's current attack is different from its original attack as a quick effect, you can make this card gain 1000 attack until the end of the turn. So, sadly, you can't stack that 1000 attack over and over again, but it does help give you a little bit more gas for negation and possibly shrugging off effects. While this requires a bit more specific material than Destroy Ogre, I think this is a massive improvement. There's no giving our opponent free monsters, its protection is pretty self-contained. The big issue here is that the more things it gets targeted with, the more its strength gets sapped. That's right, the self-boost is temporary, but the attack cost to negate the targeted effects, those are permanent. This does give it a chance to use the attack boost though, since it checks if the attack is different from the original, so you might want to think about running cards that boost Ogre's power outside of itself, like with field spells or equip spells. That way you get the boost effect online sooner, and it becomes invulnerable to even more interaction. Though thankfully, we do have something on theme that helps to enable this. While it's technically a debuff, summoning Giant Ogre back with a Ring Trainer does reduce its attack power, which makes it different from its original attack. Overall, it's a solid pick, and leaves a pretty big impression. A giant one, even. Gouki the Master Ogre is a Link 4 monster with 2800 attack, requiring 2 or more Gouki monsters as material. Once per turn as a quick effect, you can return to the hand any number of Gouki monsters you control that this card points to, then target the same number of face-up cards your opponent controls, and those cards have their effects negated until the end of the turn. This card can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each, and if your opponent controls any number of face-up monsters, Master Ogre can only attack the monster with the highest attack with its attacks, your choice if tied. Now, overall, I like this card. Multi-attackers are pretty valuable, as they have the capacity to help close out games in a pinch. The way Master Ogre handles it isn't ideal. It effectively means that if your opponent has anything stronger than Master Ogre, then it can't hit anything, but that can be solved with some good sequencing. Making sure to use your removal on the biggest threats first, or having some attack boosters on hand to make Master Ogre even more effective. If anything, that even helps it dole out more damage, so it's kind of a win-win. And despite being a great proactive threat in that regard, it's also a decent reactive threat, buying back your Gouki monsters to negate face-up cards. Have you ever been on the wrong side of a hot red dragon Archfiend Abyss and watched your Raigeki get smothered by the quick negate? Well, Master Ogre can do that too, and on a wider scale, depending on how many Goukis you have at your disposal. This card gets a very good rating, and you should be sure to have one on hand at any moment so you can clean sweep at a moment's notice. Or, if you want to feel like a superhero, we've got some mad comic book vibes coming off this one for sure. Gouki the Power Load Ogre is a Link 4 monster with 2800 attack, requiring 2 or more warrior monsters as material. It gains attack equal to the combined Link ratings of all other Link monsters you control times 200, and this Link summoned card is unaffected by other cards' effects. And you contribute a Gouki Link monster, then target cards on the field up to its Link rating and destroy them. So, I know we've talked about a lot of Link 4s so far, but this one's the best, and it's not even a contest. Destroy and Giant both have conditional protections, but Power Load is just a Towers, as long as it's dealing with an activated effect. It's also the most accessible. Not only does it only need a 2 monster minimum instead of Giant's 3 monster minimum, you can also make it with warriors in general, so it's compatible with any that you splash in. This has made Power Load a total monster in any limited series that it's involved in, taking just about anything that can be thrown at it while growing to massive sizes. And in its own deck, it's even better. Not only are you trying to make more Gouki Links to boost Power Load's attack, since the only real failing of this card is its slightly subpar attack stat, you can trade in those Goukis for removal. This is a beastly card, no doubt about it, and should still be considered one of your heaviest hitters, even today. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that this is a bit of a power load-bearing ogre. Alright, that does it for the monsters, now it's time for the spells. Gouki Face Turn is a normal spell card that targets a Gouki card that you control and a Gouki monster in your grave. Destroy that card on the field, and if you do, special summon that other monster from the grave. This is a fantastic card. What you can summon off of this has no restriction beyond the archetypal one, and by popping a Gouki, you're setting yourself up for a search. Heck, the card itself is very accessible because of our frequent card searching, which grabs you spells as well as monsters. It's also important to note that this can destroy Gouki cards on the field, not just monsters. We don't have very many lingering non-monster cards, but they do exist, so keep those options in mind when going for this card. You might want to keep the muscle on board to use for your offensive pushes. All in all, this is a ridiculous card that can turn even our smallest wrestlers into reinstated all-stars. So our opponent is never too far away from a smackdown. Though, granted, this card foretells a very dark turn for Gore's character. Or should I say, Gore tells. Gouki Finishing Move is a normal spell card that targets a Gouki Link monster that you control, and it gains attack equal to its Link rating times 1000 until the end of the turn. Also, it deals piercing battle damage, but for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you can't declare attacks except with Gouki monsters. In a pure build, that's not an issue at all, that's your whole field anyway. The question is, which one is the best Link monster to use Finishing Move on? Blade Ogre makes a great argument for second place, because even without pointing at anything, Finishing Move brings it to a staggering 5400 attack, and remember, Blade Ogre has a double attack, which can be brutal, combined with the complementary piercing damage, and it's probably the best choice to deploy against smaller fields of monsters. But in general, we've gotta give it to Master Ogre. A 4000 point boost takes it to 6800 attack, easily eclipsing any other monster in combat. And with its ability to attack an entire board, you've got lots of damage stored up right there. And normally, as essentially just a battle trick, I would be very critical about it for being too situational. But remember, you can just grab this whenever you need it thanks to our deck's natural search capabilities. So whenever you're ready to clean out your opponent's stock of life points, you can tutor this out whenever you want to finish things off. Gouki Rematch is a normal spell card that targets 2 Gouki monsters in your grave with different levels and special summons them in defense position. It's a simple card, but golly is it effective. It does incentivize you to play as many different levels of Gouki as possible to take advantage of it, but thankfully that's not too difficult since the monster lineup is varied enough that you'll reach that with normal deck building. And it certainly helps take the pressure off of our higher leveled Goukis, at least when it comes to fielding them. And because the summoned monster's effects aren't negated, all of their utility remains intact. Bear Hug can still cut down an opponent's monster's attack, and Moonsault can recover your yarded monsters. It even gives Tag Partner a chance to boost whatever Gouki Link monster it gets used for. Not to mention, if you summon Goukis that haven't used their floating effect yet, then you've got a lot more value in your future. You can even search out another Gouki rematch to use it again next turn, like some kind of re-Gouki rematch. Gouki Fighting Spirit is a continuous spell card that, when activated, lets you special summon a level 4 or lower Earth monster from your hand, either Warrior, Dinosaur, or Cyberse, in defense position. It also lets you tribute a Link 3 or higher Gouki monster to special summon a Dino Wrestler or G Golem monster from your deck or extra deck. So this is the card that's going to wrap everything together. Granted, I don't think you'll be summoning any Dinos or Cyberse with that first effect unless you've got some wild brews. And while I'd normally shun a card that only summons monsters from hand like this, once again, our massive search capabilities means we can pair this with our cards in hand at a moment's notice when we need it. So already it's a pretty solid extension option. The real question here is, what are some good targets for that last effect? And honestly, we're not short on options. Chimera T. Rexel has a fantastic attack stat, deals piercing battle damage, and keeps your opponent from attacking any of your other monsters. If it beats something up, it grows stronger, and if your opponent destroys it via card effect, you blast all of your opponent's attack position monsters. Not to mention it's got that sweet Ancient Gear text on attack. Same thing with Giga Spinosavat, which can destroy a monster once per turn, and it destroys your other cards to protect itself. And Goukis make for great blockers in that regard. And remember, this can summon from the deck too, so our good old friend Pankochromes is fair play. But can the same be said for the G-Golems? Honestly, yeah. I thought we'd be looking at a lot of Cyberse exclusive effects going into this video, but all they care about are Earth Link monsters, so our Goukis make for a great pair. If you can co-link your Goukis with Invalid Dolmen, they all become unaffected by your opponent's monster effects on their field and forces your opponent to attack it. Dignified Trillathon also forces your opponent to attack it and gives a little targeting protection to your links. But the big winner here is Crystal Heart. While in the EMZ, you can revive Blade Ogre to give it a nifty attack boost, both from Crystal Heart and itself, while also being given a double attack for free and piercing. But if you can activate this while in the main monster zone, you can co-link this with Destroy Ogre, Giant Ogre, and even Power Load Ogre, because it's only unaffected by the activated effects of cards. Not that that'll matter, it's only a towers whenever it's link summoned. This card has a lot of fantastic applications, so the sky's the limit when it comes to your loadout. However, I'm more curious about how the Gouki Masked Wrestling Federation is going to handle merging with the World Dino Wrestling Circuit. Think of all the paperwork that's going to be involved. Gouki Cage Match is a field spell card that, when activated, has 3 counters placed on it. If your Gouki monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, remove a counter from this card. And once per turn at the end of the battle phase, if the last of these counters has been removed by this card's effect, you can special summon as many Gouki monsters as possible with different names from your hand and or deck, then place 3 counters on this card, potentially allowing you to do all of this over again on a following turn. This pairs best with Master Ogre to help you clear out a load of monsters, and while this doesn't work so well when your opponent doesn't have any monsters, well, that just means you're attacking directly, so it's a good problem to have. The only real hiccup here is that you only get the monsters at the end of the battle phase, so you're not able to leverage them immediately into damage, though you will have a ton of cards to use as material to cement your setup during main phase 2. That being said, I don't really like this card. Even as a searchable one of, our more situational cards usually have immediate usage. Spirit can mobilize more monsters, especially the ones you search off of your other Gouki effects, and Rematch is basically miniature Soul Charge. But Cage Match requires some setup that's just not in line with how we want to be playing. Even Destroy Ogre only gives us 2 monsters we could run over when we're trying to clear 3 counters. And I mean, look at Great Ogre over here, he's so scared, I don't want to put him in that position. Come on, call the match. Alright, so that's all the Gouki cards, but what do we do with them? Well, I don't think consistency is going to be at a premium. Rather, we need ways to get what we search onto the board quickly and easily so we can make the most of them. So any enablers we can incorporate are going to be key to victory. And it's also not going to hurt to have cards that amplify the power of Earths, Warriors, and Link monsters. So what can we play to help them out? Reinforcement of the army is an easy pick here, because even though we have all the search cards in the world, ensuring we have either of the suprexes in our hand to make the most of our monsters would be pretty nice. But our search capabilities may be so prolific that it might be time to consider running Reinforcement of the Army's troops. Now, the downsides of this card are tremendous. Because you have to go to the battle phase to use this, you can kiss utilizing your Goukis as setup fodder goodbye. But like how Fighting Spirit is so uniquely helpful for us, troops here might be the extra outlet for summons that we need. And even if we can't make use of their bodies before we go to the battle phase, they still add to the offensive pressure during it, and can extend your combos during the second main phase if the deed isn't done. Earth Warriors specifically also sport a lot of their own specific support. The War Rock theme basically runs on it, and I'd go so far as to say that they've got a better field spell than we do. The spell card promotion is also kinda cracked, trading in a level 3 or lower Gouki for a level 4 or higher one without any downside. Or heck, you can use it to pivot between your on and off theme Earth Warriors that you might be playing. It is tied to the Puppet series of chess themed monsters, and they may be worth testing, but I'm not entirely sold yet. Rookie Warrior Lady helps you win basically any battle while giving you a way to restock your hand, but I'm most interested to see what Goukis can do with these star monsters. Kai'Sa the Hidden Star can leap onto the board by attributing an Earth Warrior, which is usually a -1, but in our deck, we're going to get that search to compensate. Todoroki the Earthbolt Star is another venue for fusion summoning, while Raijin the Breakbolt Star is a very aggressive boss monster that pulls double duty against Xyz or Link-centric decks. As for a silly tech pick, it's hard for an Earth deck to go wrong with Vernisylphs. Each one, plus another monster for discarding, is a monster reborn of any Earth monster, on top of a variety of other effects. We're talking card draw, we're talking attack boosts, we're talking putting grave cards back into your hand, and I'm talking about one of my favorite boss monsters of all time, Vera the Vernisylph Goddess. She steals your opponent's monsters on your turn, revives her own monsters during your opponent's turn, and once you get a 5 stack of Earths on your field, she's a monster negate every turn that doesn't even activate. And if we wanted to play into it even more, Vernisylph Corolla not only makes our in-hand effects occasionally cheaper, it adds another theme our monsters are counted as. And if you want to play the field spell Full Bloom, a full stack of Earths gives each of them 1,000 attack, and given our base stats, that's a win condition all its own. And that's all I've got to say about Goukis. This deck is a house, and while it lacks the panache of more modern decks, it knows what it wants, and it does it well. We have attack power, we have consistency, and we have removal. It has all the right ingredients to be a threat to any deck that sits across from it. They aren't so strong that they're obviously the strongest thing you could bring to the ring, and there are some tough obstacles in your way, but those are things you're just gonna have to wrestle with. But now, I want to hear what you all have to say. Are Goukis the world champions, or are we going to have to take them back to the mid-card? And which one's your favorite? Honestly, Gouki Thunder Ogre isn't my favorite monster, but it is aura farming like a beast. Let me know your favorite in the comments, and if you haven't already, please be sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, be sure to click one of my videos in the sidebar to help me show up on your homepage, and be sure to share this video with somebody you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. Today's episode is brought to you by Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales and save 5% on your order by using the coupon code GoldenNova at checkout while helping out the channel. It was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commander, Upstairs Media, Nebula Navigators, 3rd Dynasty, 50 Gigabytes, Ada Basilisk, Adam Zajdel, Ancient Wizard, Andrew Newman, Battle Axe, Kane Senpai, Chibi Gohan, Christopher Fuss, Clockswork, Comrade Copperbottom, Eric, Frankie, Garland Chaos, Green Knight, Great Big Pillock, Groog, Hair Bear, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Iron Zero, Iskander 711, Carp, Marion James E. Picata, Meme King, Millennia Asta, Muse Clark, Neon Yaminair, Orozco 09096, Panther J, Pat Boos, Rebel King Lucifer, Red Eyes Jackalow, RJ the Jank Monarch, Sonic 21 Blast, the Critic of Innocence, Thievery Coast and the Wizard Moose, Cosmic Crusaders Ally Vatnia, Animasta, Anthrak, a Random Pup, Blitzwolf, Chaz Ghost, Christopher Fuss, again, the Chris B, Cool Trainer Dark, Dr. Entity RIP, EB Channel, Eki Bullock, Eva Padilla, Herbal D, Inblink, Julian Marquez, Kale the Dragon, Lobomaru 02, Manga Pages, Natiel Lee Alexander, Nitromo, Not Al Gore, Obsidian, Pombo, Rhyme Kairos, Shizuka Nichimura, Simic Toadstool, Sir Knight JCB, Svilia, Stephen Huntsman, Stephen Williamson, the Legendary Raven, the Phantom Knights of Shitted Pants, the Queen of Time, the Gene, Tiger X2476, Tristan O'Meara, and Zaldrucka, as well as all the lovely Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, get my videos early, be a part of these credits and other awesome perks, it would mean the world to me if you would check out the link to my Patreon in the description or consider joining as a YouTube member. And if you'd like to learn more about the Gore, check out this video where I cover another deck of his, Dino Wrestlers. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.